This podcast was recorded on Gubby Gubby land and pays respects to the elders past, present, and emerging. Hello and welcome back to the podcast, or welcome to the podcast if you are new here. I am going to be chatting around how cycle syncing can actually help you to quantum leap, which might sound a little bit woo-woo, but we know that I'm a little bit woo-woo, so it's pretty aligned, right? A lot of people talk about quantum leaping, which is like, you hear stories when people are like, I literally feel like I woke up one day and I was just moving in alignment with my higher self. All these things were falling into place. All of my manifestations just like met me where I was and my life changed. And these things can happen overnight. It's almost like, it's not like overnight success in the way that you do nothing and then it'll just happen, but it's almost like when you're taking those aligned, actionable steps in the right direction, and then all of a sudden it's like you've skipped 5 years of the journey because you have been so focused on like the end goal. Does that make sense? I'm sure you know what quantum leaping is, and I'm sure that wasn't the best example, but I basically just wanted to bring in another tool for you. It's almost like a manifestation tool, really, but it's really for your mindset in how working with your cycle can actually be a tool for your personal growth rather than something that limits you and keeps you stuck in the same old cycles. Because we know, and you might just be getting a grasp of this, or you may have not even heard this before, but a lot of the work I do around the cycle is actually with our mindset and like strengthening our connection to our cycle, and how much awareness can actually just change the entire game for you in your entire life. Because it's not like we are taught in school anything about our cycle, even if it from the hormones to the phases to anything that's going on in our body. We're simply just told to keep quiet about our period and then you can have sex and die. That's like practically what we're told, right? So bringing this awareness as like an adult and understanding about your body can create, and I've seen it over and over in women, create so much change. Sometimes the missing piece to the puzzle is actually that you don't know what's going on in your body, and that's why you're getting period pain. So the mind is a very strong tool. So I want to share with you how your mindset blocks could be tied to your cycle and how you can use living in alignment with your cycle and cycle syncing as that tool for personal growth, like I just said, to quantum leap your personal development journey and your healing journey. Because we don't want to be every single time the eclipse, I don't know, it's eclipse season right now. The eclipse is literally the day I'm recording, but I'm just thinking like you don't want it to be like every time there's eclipse season, the same old cycles are repeating themselves and you haven't learned the lesson and it's the same old shit. Like we want to transcend these things so much faster than that, right? And using your cycle as a tool for this is actually like, I just don't know why you wouldn't do it. So I'm going to just go into sort of like how some mindset blocks that may come up for you regularly are actually tied to your cycle, and how when you begin to work with your cycle and bring awareness to your body, it can actually just shift these like quite instantly and in turn stop cycles from repeating themselves, like I said. So we have our period phase, which is our inner winter. Now, if you're wanting to really get a good grasp on the inner seasons, like the phases of your cycle and how to work with your cycle, and you want to have more that in-depth knowledge around like the hormones and all of the things, I do have a masterclass I'll link below, Inner Seasons, the masterclass. It's my foundational masterclass. It's all about working with your cycle, and I would highly recommend that if you're just getting into this work. But I'm just going to basically go over. So we have our period phase, like I just said, and this is the phase that's actually linked to our speaking our truth and like our intuition. So we're quite like in an inward space during this time. So potentially during this time you have a lot of emotional turmoil, you have, shame come up, or like judgment for yourself because you're actually really craving that time to yourself and maybe you're not honoring that. So when you begin to actually work with your cycle in a way that you let go of that shame and actually allow yourself to rest. And this isn't rest in a way, guys, where I want you to be like, well, I can't get work off, so I can't rest, so I'm checking out and I'm not cycle syncing. It's rest in a way that maybe you say no to plans and you stop that people-pleasing behavior because you know that you deserve to just have a night in. It could look like rest from just scheduling in an extra 5 minutes at the end of your day to do a little bit of breath work, right? We can bring this rest and this honoring energy into our busy routines. So I don't want you to think if you've got kids running around the house, you're a single parent, you've got, a job where you're working 50 hours a week. I don't want you to think that you can't also still honor this and work with the mindset work with your own mindset and cycle sync. So potentially a mindset block, like I said, that comes up for you is self-judgment, shame, all of these things. And you might be listening and going, oh my gosh, yeah, I do. I actually shame myself because I'm so tired. Potentially you drink extra coffee in this time trying to soothe the tiredness, and then you just actually feel worse. Then your sleep's really bad, and there's just a whole spiral of things that are affecting your personal development journey, right? Because you're emotionally aware, you're self-aware, you understand these things, but you just don't quite understand why this cycle comes up for you every single month. So in my Inner Seasons Masterclass, there are journal prompts there that will help you to kind of go deeper with this phase of your cycle. But if we can shift from the shame and the blame and the guilt and all the things that we're placing up on ourselves during this phase and actually move into harnessing how intuitive you are during your period phase and how, truth, your truth is trying to come through, your self-truth. So it could be that every time you're on your period, if you actually take the space to sit with yourself and your intuition, that your truth doesn't align with certain friendships or certain routines or certain things that you're doing, and you know that your truth is actually to wake up with the sun and go to a Pilates class before work instead of potentially sleeping in and scrolling on your phone, right? Just things like that. So working with your intuition in your period phase is actually going to help you to quantum leap, because you're tuning in to your truth, you're tuning into your higher self, connecting to that energy, visualizing that energy, because we can be very visual and dreamy as well in our period phase. And then that's just going to literally half the time that you get to that next version of yourself if you actually leverage this part of self and shift away from having those blocks. We want to just kick those mindset blocks over. They don't belong here. Okay, so the follicular phase is the time when, that's just after our period phase, by the way, and this is the time when we are very curious and playful and creative. So potentially in this phase though, for you there's maybe those parts of your inner child that are trying to come up, right? Potentially just after your period, you're oh my gosh, I feel like going for a run, or I feel like doing something really fun. But you allow your lack of confidence or your fear of being seen as a beginner to actually get in the way of that. And so see how the follicular phase there is linked to more that inner child energy. And yes, it's a time when we're curious and we're playful and we can harness those incredible energies. But if you have those mindset blocks come up every single cycle and you keep yourself small and you just play into, oh, maybe I'll just do it another time, or maybe I will call a friend to do this with instead because I'm actually scared to just be seen as a beginner. And we want to go back almost to that mindset of a toddler who just doesn't give a fuck who's around them, and they still just try and walk and they fall over. Yeah, they might cry when they fall over, but they get back up and they try it again. We have just been so conditioned to not get to the point where we fall over and be seen in that. So that's why there's can be these specific mindset blocks in this specific phase of your cycle. So again, in my Inner Seasons Masterclass, there's journal prompts for you to explore this a little bit more. But if this is something that you notice comes up for you, if you're just thinking in reflection, yeah, actually the week after my period, I do feel pretty turned on, I'm pretty keen to go, get the ball rolling, start new things. I'm curious. I want to learn, blah, blah, blah. But then you notice that second voice comes over you and you're oh, but I'm not good enough. Oh, but I'm too old to do that, or whatever that is. Working with your cycle and actually knowing where you are in your cycle, and then recognizing that these are common mindset blocks that come up for every woman. It's not just you can actually to help you to quantum leap, right? So I would love for you in your next cycle as well to just get really curious and see, potentially you've done quite a lot of inner child work or unconscious belief work or subconscious reprogramming, all of the things. But these things still rear their head, right? We're never going to be perfect humans. So wherever you are in your personal development journey, I would love for you to just explore the mindset blocks that come up throughout each phase of your cycle. Can I just say, like, as a quick little side note, being pregnant, like I get puffed so much easier, and I'm literally just talking and I'm like having to pause this podcast to catch my breath, which is kind of funny. I am really looking forward to, like, I am loving my pregnancy, don't get me wrong, but I'm really looking forward to having my usual cardiovascular health back, because even walking up the stairs can feel like a little bit freaking overwhelming at times, where I'm just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm puffing right now. Like, it's almost embarrassing. But of course, it's just a part of being pregnant. Like, it just happens, especially when carrying a big baby boy like I am. But yeah, I'm probably just not going to be able to do any podcast interviews until further notice, honestly, because I actually am having to pause it, it's just funny. Okay, back onto the topic. We have our ovulation phase, and this is the phase where you probably see online, like on Instagram and TikTok and stuff, like a lot of people talking about this phase being quite glamorized. It's the time when like your energy is at its peak, you're feeling hot, you're feeling good. You know, it's really glamorized in that like maybe you're feeling like super confident in yourself and like really just like fertile, right? Like it's that time when we're feeling really fertile. But do you know what can equally come with this? Is it's a time when, yes, we're feeling confident, we're feeling sure of ourselves, we're feeling just so like expressive would be the word. But equally, this phase can come with like a lot of turmoil, especially I recognize if you have wounding, like mother wounding, whether it's with like your own mother or like yourself as a mother. And this can actually manifest as like lack of confidence and complete people-pleasing behavior, like to the point where you're like just giving everyone else around you everything that you have, all of that extra energy you have, you're putting into your family, your partner, your friends, your work, everyone around you, right? Like you've got that extra energy, but you're not allowing any of it to be for you. So people-pleasing and that lack of confidence and even like that lack of self-worth can come up here, right? Like if you potentially don't feel good enough, like maybe that is like something for you, like it's like, oh my gosh, like I actually like I can see in the mirror that I look nice, but I just don't feel good enough. These mindset blocks are so common in the ovulation phase, and I just don't think it's spoken about enough. And that's why I just love working with the shadows of the cycle, so that like women can understand that yes, we have like the light side to our cycle, but there's equally the dark side to it. But when we have awareness and start cycle syncing and working with our cycle, we can actually work with these energies and like shift from them and understand that where our hormones are and what's going on plays a huge role on our mindset, but equally so does trauma from the past, you know, like limiting beliefs, stories, all the things. And we have all these different stories and limiting beliefs come up in different phases of our cycle. So again, this is the phase where, yeah, you can be confident, but bringing in that awareness that potentially during your ovulation window, you're feeling the complete opposite and just gently exploring that. I feel like this whole episode, I'm really just saying, this is what can come up and just explore it. And it might sound like really basic and like, Tanika, you're giving me absolutely fucking nothing. But I just want you to feel really seen and understood in that, yeah, these things do come up for everyone. It's not just you. Like you're not actually alone in this. It's just that it's not really spoken about. And I also feel like a lot of women just don't have the language or articulation for that your cycle can actually either control you or you can have, you know, you can leverage it and have control of it kind of thing. So yeah, again, exploring this, if this comes up for you, like the lack of confidence thing, maybe it's that you feel good in your physical body, but like internally there's like a bit of a battle going on. And I want to remind you, you don't have to do this alone. Please reach out to me on Instagram. Like, let me know if any of this resonates. I do offer coaching calls, Telegram, all the things so that we can actually do this journey together. Because again, especially if you are facing this stuff around ovulation where it's like people pleasing and it's really hard to put yourself first. Like if you resonated to that and that like just like got a little heartstring, honestly, like this is the work that you need to do, I promise, because it's just such deep, incredible, and really important work, because we don't want to model that to like our children or anything like that, right? We want them to like know that it's okay and that they do have like a really confident, incredible mum. Not saying that you're not an incredible mum already, but you're allowed to feel that confidence and that self-worth Look at me just speaking to the mums because I'm becoming a mum. I'm like, mamas, are you out there? Anyway, but I'm just like, I guess on that journey myself to becoming a mum, that I'm just like seeing these things and looking at life through a different lens. So if you're not a mum, it still applies to you, right? Like maybe you're a dog mum. Now, the luteal phase is the phase after that ovulation. This is the phase that's like the most dreaded phase. I've got heaps of episodes about it, like working with your luteal phase and like all the things, like you can go back and listen. But the luteal phase is when our hormones are starting to recede. So there's obviously other things going on. Again, in a season's masterclass, I go deep into the hormones. I'm not going to do that right now. But basically, this is the time when we're really starting to turn inward. We're really starting to become introspective and reflective, right? So this phase is going to bring up a lot of shit. And if you are someone who can relate to PMSing, lashing out at your partner, your emotions control the show during this phase, please listen so incredibly closely as I speak about this. This phase, when we look at the feminine archetypes that I work with in the framework that I use, is related to the wild woman, right? And you may already know that. But I want you to even just think right now, like a wild woman, primal in her glory. She's like that warrior energy, right? Like she doesn't give a fuck about what anyone thinks of her. She says whatever she desires. She's intuitive and she follows that calling so deeply. She doesn't have conditioning around what she should or shouldn't look like, say, be. Completely not the good girl, right? Yet we are so conditioned to be the good girl. We're so conditioned to, oh, good girl, like, yes, you're fitting yourself into a box. Great job, right? We're literally praised to fit ourselves in a box and just do what society or like our parents or whoever around us accepts us for. And as soon as we step out of that box as women, it creates a bit of discomfort in those around us, especially like men, right? So the shadow aspect to this is if you are not allowing yourself, and this could just be in one area of life, right? Like you could be someone who's been doing personal development for a really long time. Like I said at the start of the episode, you're self-aware, you understand your shadows, you understand your limiting beliefs, all of the things. But maybe it's just in your intimate relationship where you don't actually fully fucking just speak up and go, this is what I want. This is what feels good for me. Or maybe it's in your workplace, or maybe it's literally to your children, or potentially it's just to your friends, like whatever it might be. Where are you still playing into that good girl conditioning? Where are you actually not allowing yourself to fully just go, fuck it? Like, cool, all the trend right now is to wear this clothing, but what about if I just wear something else and just actually be seen as different? Like, how does that actually feel in your body, right? So yeah, this phase can bring up a lot of like rage, all of the things. And if we go a little bit more woo-woo, like a lot of ancestral stuff comes up in this phase. So things that are not even yours as well. I want you to remember that not every single time we're dealing with a cycle is it ours. Sometimes we need to just come to that of like, oh, okay, this actually doesn't feel like it's mine, and just return to sender with love. So this phase is a lot when it comes to the shadows, and I feel like I will do like a whole episode just on like how the shadows of the luteal phase can actually, it's a very shady phase, really. So the good in this phase is that you're reflective, your intuition switching on really strong. You are in a time when you actually want to complete things. So we want to like close the cycle. And, you know, that could be a completion of like a fucking uni assignment, right? But that is like the good things with this phase. Whereas like the shadows of this phase can be that you are actually like really holding yourself back from closing an old cycle that you know doesn't serve you, because you feel more comfortable playing that cycle out than you do actually evolving into the next version of you. So when you actually really start leveraging the luteal phase, this is where like so much of the quantum leaping I was speaking about can just come into play, because it's coming to a place of accepting those parts of self. Acceptance is a huge piece, and then just allowing it to be like a place of surrender for you. And your higher self is just going to you're just going to evolve into that next level of yourself so fast when you come into the place of acceptance and surrender. So like I said, you could be someone who's done like so much personal development work and this phase still sucks for you. It's just an opportunity for you to go deeper and to actually explore what it is that is there. So yeah, this is where I'm going to leave this episode today. I'm going to leave linked below my free ebook for you, and also the Inner Seasons Masterclass I mentioned a couple of times, just if you're wanting to go that little bit deeper and understand sort of a bit more. But other than that, I shall be back in your ears next week. I am so grateful if you've listened all the way to the end, and I really hope this episode helped you. I hope that it just brought some light to like some things that you potentially face, like mindset blocks that you potentially face, and just make things feel a little bit like, oh my gosh, okay, I'm not alone in this, but it also doesn't have to be my normal. So yeah, love you, and I'll speak to you next week.